So today I've just arrived at Cookmere Haven and I'm about to start a sunrise paddleboard session. It's a little after 7 AM and I've got the Aquaplanet Allround 10 with me today, which I'm going to take out on the water and give you my thoughts on. So without further ado, let's crack on and get that board inflated. So this is the Aquaplanet Allround 10, and as you've probably noticed, it's inside of a tote bag, which is pretty unusual as most paddleboards come in a backpack. But everything about this board is designed to be compact so that it fits inside this tote. So let's get into the bag and we'll have a look at what's inside. First up we have the paddle, and this is a compact 4-piece aluminium paddle. Whilst it might not be the lightest paddle out there, it's pretty standard and what you'd expect from an entry-level paddleboard. Next up we have the pump, and Aquaplanet have chosen to do away with the manual pump and opt for their compact electric pump. Not only does this remove the bulk from the bag, it goes without saying that it's a much less effort to inflate your board to the recommended PSI. Then we have a single clipping quick release fin. I love these over those really fiddly sliding fins. These are much easier to attach and detach after your paddleboard. Another really premium feature that comes with this board is the padded quick release coiled leash. Then before we get to the board, we have one last item in the bag, which is our repair kit. So this is the Aquaplanet Allround 10, and as you can see, it packs down really small, and that's because the board folds lengthways to allow it to roll up into this smaller size. But I'll show you more about that later. But now with everything out of the bag, the only thing that's left to do is get this board inflated and get out on the water. So before we get stuck into our paddle, I thought we could just go over some of the specs of this board. This board weighs in at 7.8 kilograms, making it one of the lightest paddleboards out there in the market right now. So as the name suggests, this board is 10 feet long, and we'll touch on the pros and cons of that a little bit later when we look at performance on the water. But essentially it means it's not going to track quite as well compared to a slightly longer board, but the plus side of that is that you get some really quick and responsive turns on the water. At 6 inches deep, this is pretty standard for an all-rounder paddleboard. It ensures the board is really stiff and stable, again perfect for a beginner. And finally, specs-wise, this board uses heat fuse technology to weld the seams together, which is something you don't get in many budget boards, but I do notice more of the larger brands are implementing this over the adhesive seams. What that essentially means is this board is going to last a lot longer, and you can see that reflected in Aquaplanet's warranty, which now gives you 3 years. Just shows that they've got faith in their product, that this is going to last the long haul. So we touched on performance a little bit earlier when talking about the board dimensions. The 10-foot length does mean that you'll be doing a few more corrections as you paddle to keep the board tracking in a straight line. But on the plus side, the shorter length means the board is more responsive to turns on the water. Let's do a couple. And the extra width does have a slight effect on the glide, so over a greater distance you will find that you'll be doing more paddle strokes than you would on a slightly narrower board. Now, neither of these things are an issue at all, and will probably go unnoticed by many, but it's just worth knowing all the same. So before we wrap up today's session, I just want to show you some of the features on the board. So first of all, we'll start in the middle here with the carry handle. It's only got one carry handle, but considering how light this board is, it's really not difficult to manoeuvre and pull it in and out of the water at that weight. So one carry handle is enough, I think. And then on the sides of the board, it's got 4 of these fabric loops each side. These are in place of your standard D-rings. They work exactly the same, they're just a little bit more fiddly in my experience if you're attaching, say, a kayak seat or something through the loops, as opposed to the D-rings. Now on the front of the board we have these 2 elastic bungee straps designed to carry your gear as you paddle. And on the back strap here we have a bottle holder, which just about fits a 1 litre Navigene bottle. I tend to find that I will take a backpack or a dry bag out with me, which has snacks and maybe a change of clothes, my camera gear in there, and then a tripod and maybe my shoes. And I find these straps are sufficient enough to carry all of that. Now on to what is probably the biggest change with the Allround 10 series this year, and that is the Gecko grip deck pad, which has replaced the standard EVA deck. Not only does this allow the board to fold down the middle and pack down smaller, it still provides plenty of grip on the water. The material is pretty grippy in bare feet. I did find with paddleboard shoes that it wasn't as grippy, and the best way I can think of describing this, very similar to the grip tape found on a skateboard. Obviously it's nowhere near as rough. This is very soft and rubberized, but the biggest benefit that I've probably found with the Gecko grip deck pad is the fact that it can wipe clean after a paddleboard, so you don't need to leave it out in the sun to dry for hours like you would an EVA deck, and you can simply pack it away and put it in storage and not have to open it up again once you get home to dry it out. So before I get to my final verdict, here are some pros and cons about the board. So first of all, it is incredibly lightweight, only 7.8 kilograms, making this board really easy to transport both in the tote and when inflated. Then, as I just mentioned, this packs down into a tote bag, making this incredibly small. It's great if you're short on space at home or in the car. Then onto the construction, this uses heat fusion technology, making this board really tough and durable, and it's going to last the long haul, which is shown by Aquaplanet's 3-year warranty, so they have faith in their product too. Then looking at the kit, this paddleboard package includes an electric pump for under 250 quid. That's pretty much unheard of. And finally, the width of this board being 33 inches make this board a perfect beginner board for anyone just getting started, or just for anyone that wants to have a bit of fun on the water. So they are my pros, but there are a few cons with this board as well. And although I love the Gecko grip, there are a few downsides to it. Personally, I find the EVA deck pads much softer underfoot. For an hour or two paddle, it is not noticeable. But if you're going to be doing a long day on the board, then you might start to notice tired feet by the end of the day. Then there's the fabric loops instead of D-rings. These are a little bit fiddlier, but again, it's a minor grievance. And finally, the price. Personally, I think £250 is a great price for the package. But if you're just looking for a board for the first time, just to get out, give it a go, then you might find it's a bit more than you're willing to spend. But if you do decide to spend the £250, you're going to get a great all-round board. If you're just getting started with paddleboarding, this is the perfect beginner package. It's got everything you need for a fuss-free, easy setup to get yourself straight up on the water. It's nimble and quick and responsive on turns. It's very stable with that extra width, and with all of this combined, it makes it the perfect beginner paddleboard. This paddleboard isn't going to suit everyone. It's not designed for touring or long journeys. It's designed to be a beginner-friendly, recreational, all-rounder paddleboard. But for the majority of people out there, that is exactly what you need. So if you found this video helpful, then a thumbs up goes a long way, and don't forget to subscribe too, so you don't miss out on the next video. But until then, have a good one.